There are milestones in music that announce themselves quietly. A platinum certification here, a chart position there. Numbers that industry professionals nod at, acknowledge, and file away as good but expected. And then there are the numbers that make everyone stop, rewind the recording, check the data source 3 times, and ask out loud, wait, how is that even possible? Bad Bunny's Super Bowl halftime performance just hit 100 million views on YouTube in 1 week. 1 week. Not 1 month, not a slow build over several weeks, not the gradual accumulation of views that typically defines viral content in 2026. 7 days, from upload to 100 million. The kind of velocity that doesn't just break records, it rewrites what people thought was physically possible on the platform. But here's where the story stops being about a big number and starts being about something way more uncomfortable: comparison. Because while everyone's celebrating Bad Bunny's achievement, there's another number sitting quietly in the background that nobody wants to talk about directly. A number that reframes this entire conversation and makes you question everything you thought you knew about the music industry, mainstream appeal, and which artists actually connect with audiences when the playing field is level. A quick pause. Welcome to Inside the Heist. If you're enjoying this video, please subscribe, as that will help us on our long way to YouTube monetization. Now, back to the video. Kendrick Lamar's Super Bowl halftime performance, the one from 2025 that was called legendary, historic, one of the greatest ever, currently sits at approximately 167 million views on YouTube after a full year. 12 months, 52 weeks, 365 days of being available on the platform. Kendrick Lamar, who just won 27 Grammys in a single night, who dominated cultural conversation for an entire year, whose halftime show was universally praised as a masterclass in performance art, took 12 months to reach 167 million views. Bad Bunny hit 100 million in 7 days. Let that math sit with you for a minute, because the twist in this story isn't what you think. Because what these viewing numbers actually mean is about to reframe everything you thought you understood about who's really winning in music right now. Here's what should have happened according to conventional music industry wisdom. Kendrick Lamar performed at the Super Bowl in 2025. English language performance, American artist, mainstream appeal, critical acclaim, coming off a Grammy sweep that made international headlines. His halftime show was designed for maximum accessibility to the broadest possible audience. Bad Bunny performed at the Super Bowl in 2026. Spanish language performance, Puerto Rican artist, culturally specific. Some critics called it too niche. Republican lawmakers literally called it pornographic filth and demanded a federal investigation. His halftime show was unapologetically designed around Latin identity without translation or compromise. In a traditional media landscape, Kendrick's video should be destroying Bad Bunny's in viewership. The English language advantage alone should create a massive gap. The established mainstream appeal, the critical consensus, the lack of controversy, all of it pointed toward Kendrick maintaining a comfortable lead. Instead, Bad Bunny is on pace to lap him twice, maybe 3 times. In 7 days, Bad Bunny captured 60% of what Kendrick accumulated in 365 days. If Bad Bunny's performance maintains even a fraction of this momentum, he'll pass Kendrick's full year total within a month, maybe less. That's not a slight difference. That's not a close competition. That's a completely different category of audience engagement. And the question nobody in the industry wants to ask loudly is, why? The easy answer, the one that gets thrown around in industry conversations and comment sections, is that Bad Bunny's performance was simply more viral, better moments for clips, more shareable content, TikTok-friendly segments. Except that explanation doesn't hold up under even basic scrutiny. Kendrick's show had viral moments, incredible staging, surprise guests, cultural references that spawned thousands of reaction videos and breakdowns. His performance was designed by people who understand virality at a professional level. Bad Bunny's show had those things too. But it also had something that should have been a massive disadvantage, a language barrier for the majority of American viewers. Most Super Bowl audiences don't speak Spanish fluently. That's not opinion, that's demographic reality. Kendrick performing in English should have given him a built-in advantage in view count, watch time, and overall engagement from the primary Super Bowl viewing demographic. And yet, Bad Bunny is smoking him in YouTube metrics. So if the language barrier didn't slow Bad Bunny down, and Kendrick's mainstream advantages didn't help him pull ahead, what actually explains the 100 million views in 1 week? Here's where the story takes its turn. Because the answer isn't about Bad Bunny at all. It's about who was already waiting for him. The global Spanish-speaking population is approximately 500 million people. That's not counting people who understand Spanish as a second language, people who engage with Spanish language content culturally, even without fluency, or the massive diaspora communities around the world. 500 million people who have been watching mainstream American entertainment sideline their language for decades, who have watched the Super Bowl feature English language performers year after year, who have consumed American pop culture while their own culture was treated as niche or specialty rather than mainstream. And then Bad Bunny walked onto that stage and performed entirely in Spanish, without apology, without translation, without compromise. For 500 million people, that wasn't just a performance, that was recognition, that was validation, that was someone finally saying, "You belong here too," on the biggest entertainment stage in America. Those 100 million views in 1 week, that's what happens when you give an underserved audience something they've been waiting for. That's what happens when you stop treating Spanish-speaking viewers as a niche market and recognize them as a massive global audience that's been ready to engage this entire time. The music industry has spent years telling itself that English is required for true mainstream success, that Spanish-language artists need to compromise, translate, adapt to reach the biggest audiences. Bad Bunny just proved that was always a lie told by people who didn't want to acknowledge how large the Spanish-speaking world actually is. If you're starting to realize that this isn't just about view counts, but about who the music industry has been systematically undercounting for years, you need to subscribe right now. Because what comes next is the part that makes industry executives extremely uncomfortable. And it's about money. YouTube views translate to revenue. Engagement translates to sponsorship value. Viral moments translate to long-term streaming numbers and tour ticket sales. Bad Bunny hitting 100 million views in 1 week isn't just a vanity metric. It's a financial demonstration that Spanish-language content can generate mainstream-level returns faster than English-language content with equivalent production values. That should fundamentally change how labels, sponsors, and platforms approach Latin artists. If Bad Bunny can generate viewership that outpaces Kendrick Lamar, one of the most critically acclaimed artists of this generation, then the assumption that English is required for maximum commercial success is dead. But here's the suspicious part. The industry isn't rushing to change its approach. Labels aren't immediately pivoting to sign more Spanish-language artists. Platforms aren't restructuring their algorithms to equally weight Spanish content. Sponsors aren't flooding Latin artists with the same deal offers they extend to English-language performers. Why not? Because acknowledging what Bad Bunny's numbers actually mean requires admitting that the industry has been leaving money on the table for decades by treating Spanish-language audiences as secondary. It requires acknowledging that mainstream was always an artificially narrow category that excluded massive global audiences by choice, not necessity. And that admission comes with uncomfortable follow-up questions. How many other artists were sidelined because they performed in the wrong language? How much revenue has the industry sacrificed by demanding cultural assimilation as a prerequisite for investment? How many Bad Bunnies never got their Super Bowl moment because executives couldn't imagine Spanish connecting with mainstream audiences? Here's what makes this story genuinely wild. Bad Bunny isn't an anomaly. He's proof of concept. He's not the first Spanish-language artist to be massively successful. He's just the first one who got a Super Bowl halftime show without being required to sing in English. And the response from global audiences was immediate and overwhelming. 100 million views in 1 week means the audience was already there. They were already engaged. They were already waiting for someone to give them content at this level in their language. Bad Bunny didn't create that demand. He just finally met it on the biggest possible stage. The twist isn't that Bad Bunny is exceptionally talented, though he is. The twist isn't that his performance was perfectly executed, though it was. The twist is that the industry has been sitting on a 500 million person audience and treating it like a niche market, because acknowledging its size would require fundamentally rethinking how mainstream success is defined. Kendrick Lamar's 167 million views in 1 year is impressive. It represents steady, sustained engagement from a loyal and growing audience. Nobody's diminishing that achievement. But Bad Bunny hitting 100 million in 7 days isn't just impressive, it's revelatory. It's evidence that the assumptions underpinning the entire music industry's approach to language and culture have been wrong, expensively wrong, generations wrong. The real test isn't whether Bad Bunny's numbers stay high. They will. The performance was too good, the cultural moment too significant, the global audience too engaged. The real test is whether the music industry actually learns from this or finds a way to dismiss it as a unique circumstance that doesn't require broader change. Will we see more Spanish-language artists get a Super Bowl opportunities? Will labels start investing in Spanish content with the same budgets they reserve for English productions? Will platforms restructure to treat Spanish and English as equally valuable for algorithmic promotion? Or will the industry treat Bad Bunny as the exception that proves the rule, the one Spanish-language artist who made it in a way that conveniently allows everyone else to keep doing business as usual? Based on how long it took Bad Bunny to get a Super Bowl spot, despite being the most streamed artist on Spotify globally, despite breaking every possible commercial metric, despite proving his audience size repeatedly, the smart money says the industry will find a way to avoid the larger implications. But the numbers don't lie, and 100 million views in 1 week is a number too big to ignore forever. Kendrick Lamar, 167 million views in 365 days. English language. Mainstream critical acclaim. Maximum industry support. Bad Bunny, 100 million views in 7 days. Spanish language. Called too cultural by critics. Required an FCC investigation to prove he wasn't obscene. The artist who had every advantage according to traditional industry logic is being outpaced by the artist who supposedly had the deck stacked against him. That's not luck. That's not coincidence. That's evidence that mainstream was always an artificially constructed category that benefited specific languages and cultures while systematically excluding others who had equivalent or larger audiences waiting. Bad Bunny didn't beat the system. He proved the system was measuring the wrong things. Stay subscribed, because as more data comes out, streaming numbers, tour sales, long-term view counts, this story is going to get even bigger. We're documenting the moment when the music industry's assumptions about language, culture, and mainstream success got shattered by 1 week of YouTube metrics, and you're going to want to be here for every chapter of what happens next. 100 million views in 1 week, the number that proved everything.